everyone. Welcome to today's Facebook Live video. We are going to talk about self-esteem today and how to help your children to develop a healthy self-esteem. When I started looking at what I was going to talk about this week, I asked for feedback from parents. What would you like to have me discuss? And I thought this was a really interesting topic. There were several people that said self-esteem, both on the comments on our Facebook page, as well as in private messages and emails that people had sent me as well. So I've really appreciated all the feedback that I've gotten this week. I know that at least a few of you have gotten some helpful information, so that's what my goal was this week. So self-esteem was something that when you all suggested it, wasn't something that I had thought about talking about. So I'm glad that I asked for that feedback as well. So let's talk about self-esteem. Um, First, I think just like yesterday when we talked about mental health, and we want to mention being healthy rather than mental illness. I think when we talk about self-esteem, we want to talk about a healthy self-esteem, not high self-esteem, low self-esteem, but what is a healthy self-esteem. And the reason that's important is because we know that if a child has a really low self-esteem, then they're more likely to let other people mistreat them. They're more likely to become victims, especially later on in life. They're more likely to enter abusive relationships, to give up easier, so they're not usually as successful in school. They can't cope when they feel like they fail at something. They feel like if they don't get the award or they don't win or they're not the best, sometimes there's that pressure. Um, and then we have the opposite end. Sometimes I encounter kids who have a really elevated self-esteem where they think they're better than other people. And so sometimes that results in them being very lonely because people don't want to be around someone who talks down to them and offends them. And then those kids end up kind of being alone and being left out because they think they're smarter or better in some way than other kids. So we want there to be that balance where they have a healthy self-esteem. And I do actually do a lesson on self-esteem with all of the students in classrooms. And one of the things that I tell them is that a healthy self-esteem, this is what it looks like. It's someone who is confident, someone who is willing to try new things and not afraid to fail, someone who is proud of the things that they're good at and their accomplishments, but they don't feel like just because they are good at something that they are better than other people. Healthy self-esteem, we recognize that we have strengths and so does everyone else, but we also have weaknesses and we have things that other people are better at than us. And so those kids with a healthy self-esteem usually do much better in school. They have healthier relationships. They have more friends. All the things that I know you as parents that are watching what you want for your kids. So we're going to talk a little about that today. What I'm thinking is I'm going to talk about what you can do as parents at home, but I'm also going to share with you some of the things that we are doing at school to help kids with self-esteem as well. So first, let's talk about some things you can be doing. Just like mental health that we talked about yesterday with self-esteem, I think the number one piece of advice is for you to model it. And so take just a little bit of time and kind of reflect and look at your relationship with yourself. Are you positive? Do you speak in positive ways about yourself? Do your kids see you, stand in front of the mirror and analyze all your flaws? Do they hear you beat yourself up when you mess up or make a mistake or fail at something? You want them to see you when you fail, try again. They want to see you ask for help. They want they want to see you think highly of yourself. That's a good example for them to follow. Make it normal to try things and fail and have to try again. I think that's really important as well. One thing that I have noticed when I have conversations around self-esteem with kids looks very different, obviously, from kindergarten to fifth grade. There's quite an age difference there. Usually with younger kids, the low self-esteem, the negative comments that I hear are usually about their intelligence. I'm not smart, I can't read, I can't do this, I can't do whatever it is they're trying to do. It's they're not good at math, they're not good at reading, or something academic usually. With older kids like our fourth and fifth graders, a lot of times that revolves around appearance and friendships. And so the conversations that I have with the older kids, it's usually them comparing how they look to someone else. And I think one of the parents had mentioned something about puberty, and that being, they wanted me to talk about that a little bit. And I have noticed that with puberty, you start to compare yourself a lot to others. She's prettier than me, or he's better, he's more athletic than me. They start to compare each other a lot. And so I think one of the most important things that we can do is not just tell them not to compare themselves to others, but we have to make sure as adults that we don't compare them to others. And that's hard. I grew up with two sisters in my home when I was a kid. And so that comparison is there. Your sister knows how to act. Why don't you? So be really careful of that, to make that comparison between siblings and make them feel like it's a competition to see who's the best. And also between friends and things like that. We want to steer clear of comparing them to anyone else other than themselves. And that's part of the lesson that I do with them in the classroom is you only compare yourself to the you of yesterday. So you're only trying to get better than you were yesterday. And that's why one of the things we do with a lot of our awards and things like that, like for MAP testing, for example, we don't set a bar and everybody is trying to get here. Instead, each student has an individual goal. They're trying to make progress. So they're only comparing themselves to their previous self. So modeling, being careful not to compare to others. Let them choose activities too. Not every kid is going to be good at sports or like sports. Not every kid is going to be the bookworm that likes to read all the time. Let them pick things that they like and are interested in them instead of pushing. Looks like I'm getting a question come in. Okay. So instead of pushing on them, you should be interested in this, because then if you make them do, t-ball, for example, and that's not something they want to do, and then they're not good at it, then that can be something that can be harmful to self-esteem. So letting them choose things, but then also talking with them ahead of time about the commitment to that. If you've committed to this team, you're going to stick with it for at least a season. And then if you don't like it, you can, quit at the end of the season or whatever. If you're going to take dance classes, you're going to do it for this period of time. So it's not like the first time it's hard, you're going to quit. Keep trying even when it's hard. I did a great lesson with our K through 2 kids on grit, and we read a book by John Cena. I don't have it within arm's reach, but it's Elbow Grease. And we talked about never giving up when things are hard, and we try really hard to overcome things that when it looks like we're not the one that's going to be the best at that, we still work hard to overcome it. So encouraging them to stick with things and keep trying even when it's hard, that is what grit is all about. I think your conversations with kids when they come home from school, like I was saying yesterday, rather than just how is your day, asking them for them to tell you their favorite part of the day, things like that. If you have a kid that maybe is struggling with some self-esteem issues, maybe ask them every day, what's one thing you did really well today? And really push them to come up with something. And if they insist they can't come up with something, maybe reach out to their teacher and ask them for a strength so that you can have that conversation and say, well, your teacher says you're good at this. Because every kid does have a strength. And every kid has things they're not good at. And I think sometimes kids feel like I'm not good at anything, but they are. And sometimes they feel like everybody else is good at this, but I'm not. And it's okay. if they're not good at something. That's okay. That just means that's something they have to work a little harder at. Um, when we talk about praise, making sure we praise effort for starters. I see that was really, really hard. And even though it was hard, you still didn't give up, you still kept trying. And even if you didn't win, even if you didn't get whatever it was, whatever your goal was, that you still were trying really hard and praising that effort. And not give fake praise. Sometimes I hear kids that will say, that they played a basketball game, for example, and everybody's like, "Oh, you did such a great job," and they know they didn't really do a good job. They didn't really even try. So make sure that when you're giving that praise, that it is authentic, that it is, I'm proud of you for not giving up, for sticking in the game and not quitting, even though maybe it wasn't your best game or whatever the case may be. Um, Try to learn some things together. So maybe a new hobby or something new that's even new to you, but do it together and let them see you struggle with it too. Let them see you struggle with something new that you've never done before and that it's hard for you too. And going along with that, ask them for help. Like, I'm having a hard time with this. Could you help me? It's amazing to me sometimes the things that kids can do to help us. And when they can help us with something, that's a big self-esteem booster for them if they can help you, especially younger kids. Avoiding really harsh criticism like, you're lazy, you're just lazy. That's kind of one that's sort of a pet peeve for me. Instead, encouraging them to try something or participate in something, be their cheerleader. I know you can do this. Let's do it together. Let's try. And just because they are being lazy doesn't mean they are lazy. It just means they're unmotivated. It's not something they want to do. So kind of keeping that in mind too, so that it's not the more times kids hear you're lazy or you're selfish or you're impatient or things, those negative things, the more they hear them from us, the more they begin to believe that is who they are. And really, I know what we're saying to them is your action is lazy. Your action is that you are being defiant or disrespectful, but it's not that you are that. So, kind of reframing that criticism. Obviously, focusing on strengths. So, what are the things that they're good at? Finding those things and then making time for those things, making sure they have the opportunity to do those things that they're really good at. If you have a child that maybe struggles academically, maybe they have a learning disability and they're really struggling with that, we want them to work hard on those things and celebrate their hard work and praise their hard work. But also make sure they have a chance to do something where they can be successful, something that they're good at. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's crafting or art or something like that, music, dance. Make sure you find something that they're good at because there is something there, and then make sure that there's time um, for those things, time for them to do that. Another thing that I practice with kids is positive self-talk and affirmations. And you can go on YouTube and Google positive affirmations, and you can find all kinds of cute videos of kids talking to themselves in the mirror, giving that pep talk. But and they laugh at me when I say talk to yourself in the mirror. But if they see you do it, I do it for myself and practice in front of them. And sometimes that encourages them to do it too because it doesn't sound as weird. But even if it's not in front of a mirror, if it's just in their head, they need to, I try to tell them, talk to yourself like you would your best friend. Would you call your best friend or the person you love the most, would you say, oh, you're stupid or you're ugly or you're fat or whatever? You wouldn't say that to someone you care about. So don't say it to yourself either. What would you say to me if you heard me saying the things that you're saying about myself? You would tell me that I'm wrong. So kind of rephrasing that and having them practice complimenting themselves, because self-esteem is not so much about what other people are saying about you and to you. It's more about that conversation you have with yourself and how you see yourself. So practicing that. Another thing that I do is for my kids that have a lot of negative thoughts, that they're constantly saying negative things about themselves, I have them write it down. And I have this cute little shredder um, in my office that we use. It has a little turn knob. You can find this on Amazon if you're wanting to get something like this for home. But I think it was like $20 or something maybe, and then I just made the little graphics on it. But and if you turn it the other way, it comes back out. So so shred it. But I have them write down those things that they're thinking that are negative. I also use it, you can see, for worries or when they have hurt feelings and things. We write it all down, and then we shred it, and then we write something positive to replace it. So if they come in and say, I'm not good at anything, we write that down, we shred it, and then we rewrite it to say, I'm really good at, and they come up with at least one thing that they are good at. So I think that's very helpful. I do want to share a few resources. Let me find, I've kind of made some notes here of some resources to share with you. One website I think is really good is called kidshealth.org. And I pull some lesson plans from there sometimes, so you can look at the teacher section. It's all free, but there's also a link on there to Sesame Street, and I use some of those videos with my kindergarten first graders. They have Sesame Street videos and little activities that go along with those that are really good. I have a few books that I can recommend as well. I just read this one the last couple of days with kindergarten and first grade. This is Spaghetti on a Hot Dog Bun, or Spaghetti in a Hot Dog Bun. Um, it's a really great book about having courage to be who you are, and also how to handle when someone else is putting you down, when someone else is calling you names or making fun of you for the things that make you unique. So this is a great one. You can find that on Amazon as well, Spaghetti in a Hot Dog Bun, and you can see Maria Dismondy as the author there. This is another one I like. It's called Happy Dreamer. It's by Peter Reynolds. And this book I think is really cool for kids, in particular kids with ADHD. Sometimes they get really hard on themselves. And in this book, for example, it starts out saying, sometimes the world tells me, sit still, be quiet, pay attention, focus, things that they probably have heard a lot in their lives and get tired of hearing. But it talks about having dreams, and there's a page here in the middle. And when I read this with kids, I have them kind of look at it. Let me see. It pulls out and it has all these different kinds of dreamers. And I don't know if I can show that really well on the camera, but different kinds of dreamers. And really it goes back to strengths. And I have them pick one that is them. So maybe it's I'm kind, or I'm peaceful, or I like nature, or I am a good artist, or I'm a musician, or whatever their thing is. So that's a really great one as well. Another one, this one is probably a little better for older kids, third grade up. It's called I'm Gonna Like Me, and you'll recognize the author is Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's letting off a little self-esteem, and it's like letting off steam and getting rid of the negative thoughts that we have about ourselves. So you can find that one online as well. I'm Gonna Like Me. And so I think those are really great resources. As far as here at school, we did do, and I've gotten a lot of feedback, Ms. Kemper and I both have, on our awards program this year. We have revamped how we do recognition and awards here at school. And part of that is because our teachers really provided that feedback too, that we wanted to recognize more kids for more than just getting good grades and coming to school. So we have a whole awards program that is geared around recognizing kids for whatever they're really good at, for being kind, for being a good citizen, or being responsible or organized, for being good at some of our special area, being a good athlete or art or music or a good reader, for being good at making progress toward a goal that they set. So I think that's really important. And we are hoping by the end of the year, we should have at least recognized every student at least once, a lot of them more than once. But I think that's an important change that we've made this year. We do recognize goals and progress. We do have a banner. Our art teacher, Miss Wilhoit, puts up a big banner that says goal getters, and all the kids sign it if they meet their goal on map testing. And I know that's just one thing as a map test, but if you set a goal and you reach it, we want to celebrate that. We do have our social emotional learning curriculum. Part of that is done in our morning meetings, and kids can share things and celebrate each other and compliment each other. And I do lessons where I go into the classroom as well. And in addition to that, I also have a goal for self-esteem. For the girls, I call it girl power. And it's more like I have second grade to fifth grade. I don't really have any kindergarten, first graders for the girl power group, but it is all about self-esteem and friendships and having healthy friendships, in particular with other girls. And if some of you parents are watching, if you have some of your girls that are third, fourth, fifth graders, you know we have, the girl drama, the back and forth, and we talk about how to appreciate each other, how to be a good friend, how to communicate with each other in healthy ways. And we do a lot of activities where they complement each other and try to build each other up, because that's what we want our girls to do, right? Is to lift each other up and support each other and build each other up. Then for the boys, I have a group called Building Champions, and it is all social skills related, and it's got that friendship, that self-esteem focus as well. And so we do a lot of lunch sessions where they come in and they just eat lunch and we talk, and I help them to work on how to talk to each other and how to talk about their feelings. Sometimes boys feel like they can't talk about the things that are going on, and so we work through a lot of that stuff too. So I do have those groups. So if you do have some concerns, I will probably do one more round of groups right before testing. So we'll probably start those the beginning of March or so, and we'll do about 6 weeks of those groups. So we do have that going on as well. So I think there's lots of things you can do, at home. There's things that we can do here at school. And if you have particular concerns about your student, of course, reach out to me if you want me to talk with them, if you want to have some conversation more specific to what you're seeing with your kid, then we can come up with a plan, an individual plan, if you feel like you're still struggling there. So thank you for tuning in today. I have really enjoyed these Facebook Live videos. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about conflict resolution. I've had a few parents reach out that are asking, what can I do for my kid that feels left out, or other kids are being mean to them, things like that. So what I am going to do tomorrow is the lesson that I'm teaching this week and next week is all about conflict resolution. And I'm teaching kids how to talk to each other when they have a conflict. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is show you that lesson. I'm basically just going to teach you that lesson on conflict resolution. And that way you'll have those steps that I have taught them so that you can practice those at home as well. So if you feel like your kid is having a lot of conflict or needs some help with how to do that, that's what I'll be talking about tomorrow. And if you have any other questions or suggestions, feel free to comment, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.